Let's talk about how to overcome your limiting beliefs when you are just getting started on your spiritual journey. Starting a new spiritual journey can feel scary, it can feel a bit lonely, and it can be really confusing, especially if you are not really confident in kind of what you're being led to experience. And it's totally normal to feel that way. And that's why I wanted to do this video today because it's something that I have gone through myself many years ago. Um, I decided to take spirituality in a different direction. So when I use the term starting your journey, I use it a bit loosely because when it comes to spirituality and whatever your beliefs are, it really starts way before you are consciously aware of it. So when I use the term starting, I'm really referring to that point in your life when you are consciously aware, you consciously decide to set a certain intention or to take a certain path or to explore spirituality in a specific way. So that's what I mean by starting. And it is an important part of your journey. So if you're new, if you haven't started yet, if you're feeling hesitant towards starting, or if you're struggling with going deeper with whatever you are learning or experiencing, then be sure to stay tuned because I'm going to share 3 steps that I think can really help you overcome some of the limiting beliefs when it comes to getting started on your journey or when it comes to going a bit deeper into studying or learning or just having certain experiences. So, let's get started. So, let me start by sharing some of my spiritual journey. Many years ago, after I left Christianity, and I was really just at a point where I was feeling called to start exploring spirituality in a different way. It really felt like this calling. I kept getting these synchronicities and having these very interesting experiences that kept leading me towards a certain path. And it really felt like I didn't know what I was doing. it felt it did feel a bit confusing. I felt a bit like, am I going crazy right now? Or like, what should like, how is this supposed to work? Like, what am I doing? So it definitely felt like that. But one of the things that I was very clear about, even in the midst of confusion and kind of not knowing exactly what I was doing, I felt very clear on making the decision to explore spirituality in a different way. So that's what I mentioned about starting. Like, you consciously decide, you're fully aware, you set an intention and you say like, okay, I'm making this commitment to myself to explore, to study or to really narrow down my focus, right? So it doesn't matter what path you're on, what belief system, if you follow a certain religion, if you are into metaphysics, Buddhism, magic, witchcraft, whatever it is, right? It's still about deciding that you are going to learn, explore, or completely commit. So at a certain point, I was just exploring. And you might be at that stage where you don't know where you fit yet, and you're just trying to understand kind of what goes where, what feels right for you. And that's a beautiful place to be. So if you're there, like you might be there for a long time, and you don't have to have like a certain title, right? You can just be at a point of exploring. So one of the steps that I want to share with you today really focuses on letting your defenses down and be willing to learn through the lens of curiosity. And the key point here is letting down your defenses, because when you learn something new or something different, it can challenge your unconscious and your conscious beliefs. So I notice this tends to be a thing, especially if you're feeling a bit scared and you feel like the things you're being kind of you're being called to like explore, or you're feeling kind of led to start studying, like you have this fear there that something bad's going to happen. But really, if you start to explore through the lens of curiosity, and not and really let go of thinking that, oh, because I'm reading this, then I'm automatically committing to it, and you're just let that part go. Focus on being curious, letting the guard down, just to learn for the sake of exploring. And really, this leads to the next step that I want to share to kind of overcome these limiting beliefs around starting your spiritual journey. When you start to explore and you let those defenses down, then what you can really start to connect with is tuning into your intuition, allowing your intuition to be the filter to sift through all the bullshit, to sift through the things that you don't resonate with. It can be challenging to do that and to really connect with your intuition if you're constantly on guard, on defense mode, and in fear of, you know, these things that I'm learning, or that I'm researching, or that I'm experiencing, that, there's like this fear that something's going to happen, versus just looking at it from a through that lens of curiosity that I mentioned, right? Be the student. Just like if you were studying something in school, or for a project, or for an exam, right? Just learn to understand like the pieces, how it all fits together, or what doesn't fit together. So that's something, those two things, looking through the lens of curiosity, but also using your intuition, trusting your intuition, so you can use that as the filter. It's and that is something that will continue to develop over time. Now, if you are struggling with connecting with your intuition, or you're wanting to strengthen your intuition, then you should check out my podcast, Fit Body, Fit Spirit. Check out episode 1, titled How to Strengthen Your Intuition. And I share some tips on what you can do to improve that aspect of yourself. And I'll definitely leave the link to that particular podcast episode in the description of this video. So be sure to check that out if it resonates with you. So the third step that I want to share with you, that you can use to start overcoming those limiting beliefs around starting your spiritual journey, is to let go of feeling like you need to be right or wrong. And this is something that you can easily get stuck in the fear of being wrong. Like you don't want to do anything wrong. You don't want to mess things up. And that can keep you in fear, that can keep those defenses up. When you start to just allow yourself to make mistakes because that's inevitable, right? Allow yourself to be kind to yourself and know that with anything, if something goes wrong, if you make a mistake, it's really a learning lesson, it's a learning experience. So that can really help you take some of the pressure off of yourself. It's so easy to put a lot of pressure unnecessarily on yourself because you don't want to get it wrong. But when it comes to starting your spiritual path, it's really about starting, right? And it's through that experience that you start to learn what really resonates with you. So it's about letting go of the right versus wrong and really becoming more self aware. Start tuning into what feels true versus what feels right or wrong. So I mentioned there's this fear that can come up when you are this fear of like being wrong. But there's another aspect as well when it comes to this guilt that you can pick up on, that you can experience because you are going against what people think or believe to be the right thing, right? You're going against what other people think is right. And so that can leave you feeling guilty, especially if it's people that you care about, that you love, or people that you respect, and kind of the path that you're going, the things that you're feeling called to experience, called to explore. It's going completely against what they believe is right. And again, that's something I've personally experienced. Um, and you have to really become more self-aware. As I mentioned before, like other people can't live your life for you. And it can be challenging to navigate certain relationships. The dynamic of certain relationships can change as you start to build that confidence in becoming who you are through your spiritual journey, through your spiritual path. That can take time, but no matter kind of where you're at with certain relationships, you might be at a point where, you know, most people or your main circle really supports whatever you do, whatever you want to explore. Like that's perfectly fine. But also keep in mind that you don't have to share anything with anyone until you feel ready. So that's kind of that aspect I was mentioning about it can feel a bit lonely sometimes when you're starting your spiritual journey because, like, I can just use myself for an example. I didn't, there was a time where because I wasn't sure, I was kind of confused with what was happening. I didn't really feel comfortable like sharing what I was experiencing. I didn't know what to ask or who to ask certain questions or share certain things with. So I kept a lot of things to myself, and I really, um, you know, started looking into. I really focused a lot on journaling or finding videos on YouTube, finding different groups online that were talking about these things to try to find this sense of community. And one of the reasons why I'm wanted to make this video is because I wish there was a video like this for me back when I was at that point of like getting started and feeling a little confused and kind of lost and feeling like it, what's going on here? Is this a thing? So I hope that you find these things helpful, and I'll do kind of a mini recap here on some of the things that I shared. The 3 key points I want you to take away from this video, if you are at that point where you are struggling to get started, or you do kind of feel this resistance, these limiting beliefs are coming up for you, I want you to let your guard down, let your defenses down, and Be willing to learn through the lens of curiosity, and don't allow yourself to feel like because you are exploring something, because you're trying something, that you are 100% dedicated to it. When you learn something new, right, then you can decide. You use your intuition, which is the second thing. You use your intuition to filter with what resonates with you and what doesn't. And the second thing, well, and the third thing that I shared is to let go of being right or wrong and really focus on becoming more self aware. And when you use these three things, be willing to learn with letting your defenses down, and allowing yourself to really remove the egoic aspect of the mind in learning, right? When you start to do that, then you start to connect to that other aspect of yourself, the spiritual, the intuitive aspect of yourself, the part that's not flooded with doubt and with guilt and with fear. So there's no particular order that you have to use these steps that I mentioned. Um, but there are definitely things that I've used myself, and I do find them to be very helpful when it comes to taking those first steps. If you are feeling stuck, if you're struggling to um, to explore and to learn about whatever you're feeling called to. And here's the thing: you can. I mean, there's so many things that I've researched and learned and explored, and sometimes you navigate one thing so you can get one nugget of information, and that's going to trigger a whole nother journey for you, right? So when you become more in tune with spirit, you start to become guided by spirit, and it's going to lead you in the right direction as long as you start to trust it, right? So those limiting beliefs can get in the way of that. And if you're watching this video right now, then you are already on the right path, because there is that sense of, okay, I know I'm wanting to start, I know I need to start, or I know I'm afraid to start, but there's something there. And now, hopefully, with some of the things I shared today, those limiting beliefs that can get in the way, now you can use this video as a resource or as inspiration to start to remove some of those barriers. So here's a question I want you to ask yourself, and let me know your answer in the comments. What is one thing that you used to believe that you no longer resonate with now? Think back to maybe a year ago, maybe a few months ago, 3 years ago, right? What is one thing that you used to believe that no longer resonates with you now? And as you think about that answer, think about how that shift has led you to where you're at spiritually. So when you're starting your spiritual journey, there's going to be something at some point where, as you're learning something, as you're experiencing something, it's like, wow, I used to believe this. And as I'm learning these new things, this doesn't resonate with me in the same way that it used to. And you don't have to be afraid of that. You're just challenging this aspect of yourself, this older version of yourself, right? As you learn more things, you're expanding your perspective, and that allows you to have that spiritual growth and navigate that spiritual path. So be sure to share your answer in the comments, and the link to that podcast episode that I recommended will be in the description box. And if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe and I'll see you on the next one.